As soon as maybe a year and a half, we were friends with all the people we had faced off in court. It was a wrongful firing. We went to court and won.
The actor, who is an original cast member on the crime drama, has been fired from the CBS series following an on-set altercation where he allegedly kicked a writer.
When you think of certain roles, sometimes an actor immediately comes to mind. Scarface, Al Pacino, The Godfather, Marlon Brando, Batman, Ben Affleck. I'm kidding, guys. I think of like Adam West or Christian Bale first. However, in the past, sometimes actors who have played iconic roles in their shows found themselves written off. This could be due to behavior issues, contract negotiations, possibly old accusations that just recently came to light. And today we're talking about actors who have been recast or completely written off their shows. Now I do want to give you guys a heads up, there may be some spoilers here considering how the actors were either killed off or for whatever reason stopped appearing on the show. So I don't want to ruin anything for anyone, but truth be told, the majority of the shows on our list have been off the air for a while. Or already aired. However, shows like Grey's Anatomy, Criminal Minds, and The Walking Dead are on here. And speaking of The Walking Dead, well, I'm starting off our list with a character from the show, so if you haven't seen it, maybe just skip a little bit ahead. Starting us off with number 10, Chandler Riggs. First joining the show when he was just 10 years old, fans of The Walking Dead literally saw Carl, who Riggs portrayed, grow up right before their eyes. Over the span of 8 seasons, fans would not only grow to love Carl, but actually feel he became the voice of reason and compassion in a time when others weren't. Now it's fair to say during a zombie apocalypse, some people wouldn't be as compassionate, but given that Carl was just a young adult and still showed more sympathy and compassion than the majority of peers he'd come across, fans enjoyed his presence. So when he was written off, which also doesn't follow the comic book series that the show is based off of, people were upset. At Fan Expo in Vancouver during a Q&A, Riggs said, I quote, "In the comics, Carl lives until the end, so I didn't think that Carl's story would end at any point. I found out when we were doing rehearsals for episode 6 of season 8. I was pretty bummed at the time, but now I get to go on and do other things. It's fun. It's really fun being able to explore other roles and be able to actually audition for films and whatnot. When I was on the show, I was locked into the show. I couldn't do anything else. So it's really cool to be able to do other things in the meantime when I'm not working." I don't know though, I feel like finding out you're being written off of a show in the script instead of a producer telling you beforehand, it just seems like on the same level as breaking up over text. At number 9, Mandy Patinkin. If you've watched Criminal Minds, you'd likely recognize this man. He's also been the star of Homeland and is a regular on Broadway. Clearly a talented actor, when Patinkin suddenly left the Criminal Minds team, many fans were upset and confused. It almost seemed as if the first 2 seasons were almost dependent on the senior FBI agent, who although he wasn't technically the team's leader, appeared to be most of the time. Turns out there's a lot of mixed stories when it comes to what really happened here. Some sources claim he was difficult to work with, something he admitted to years after his departure. Prior to this, he publicly said he regretted doing the show, telling New York Magazine, I quote, "The biggest public mistake I ever made was that I chose to do Criminal Minds in the first place." Citing the nature of the show and what most episodes revolved around, he went on to say, I quote, "It was very destructive to my soul and my personality. After that, I didn't think I would get to work in television again." Other sources claim after 2 seasons he just disappeared and producers couldn't contact him, so he was written off. We may never know what really caused the departure, but surprisingly, he's not the only Criminal Minds alumni on our list. At number 8, Janet Hubert. Known for playing Aunt Viv in the first 3 seasons of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, apparently the on-screen chemistry between Will and Viv was all acting. In the show, the two had an incredibly tight relationship, but in real life, it seems they really don't appreciate each other's company. Hubert claims she was fired from the show because she suggested Will take the lead when asking the showrunners to increase the cast's pay. Will, on the other hand, has a very different recollection of what happened. In a 1993 interview, he explained, I quote, "I can say straight up that Janet Hubert wanted the show to be the Aunt Viv of Bel-Air show because I know she's going to dog me in the press. She has basically gone from $250,000 a year to nothing. She's mad now, but she's been mad all along. She said once, I've been in the business for 10 years and this snotty-nosed punk comes along and gets a show. No matter what, to her I'm just the Antichrist." It seems to this day Will's moved on saying he's got nothing but love, while Hubert claims she's had issues working in the industry because of Will. At number 7, Valerie Harper. Harper was the lead of the show Valerie, which would eventually be renamed The Hogan Family after Valerie was fired. Turns out Harper was fired for a breach of contract dispute involving money and creative control, but it turns out she actually didn't do anything wrong and would end up going to court with the network NBC, as well as the show's production company, Lauer. Harper would end up winning the case, being awarded $1.4 million in lost wages, as well as a few other stipulations. The accusations against Harper claim she was difficult to work with, throwing temper tantrums and fits, and quitting the show herself. Moving on to number 6, Patrick Dempsey. On Grey's Anatomy, Dempsey was often referred to as McDreamy, and I mean you can see why, the guy is incredibly attractive. So to no surprise, when he was written off the show, many fans were upset. Over the years there's been speculation he was written off after causing issues on set. However, other sources claim he simply wanted to spend more time with his family and explore other opportunities. It's important to mention at one point Dempsey was suspended from the show for having diva-like behavior on set, and showrunner Shonda Rhimes has let go of notable characters in the past for their on-set behavior. A source told Page 6 at the time, Patrick has been acting like a diva and has clashed with Shonda. She suspended him for a while, and the word on set is that he isn't coming back full-time. It wouldn't be long after that Dempsey's character would die in a tragic car accident. Halfway at 5, Mischa Barton. Portraying Marissa Cooper in the popular teen drama The OC, this is yet another one of those he said she said stories where Barton claims she left and the producers claim she was written off. Although there doesn't appear to be much ill will between the two, in a 2013 interview with the Huffington Post, the show's creator Josh Schwartz said it was 100% a creative decision for the show, and it was born out of feeling creatively like it was the direction the show needed to head, and also, quite frankly, a function of needing to do something big to shake up the show at the end of that 3rd season, to both get the show to come back for a 4th season, and I think to give the show a real creative jolt in season 4 and move the show in its own surprising, unexpected direction. He went on to say, but Mischa showed up every day and did her job and did a great job and worked really hard, so it had nothing to do with her. To no surprise, Mischa claims she asked to be written off, telling the New York Times in a 2019 interview, I just had a lot in my career that I wanted to do and accomplish. I felt like things were heavily reliant upon me, and I was getting no time to do any of the other offers that were out there. She went on to explain she actually fought with the show's writers regarding how Cooper would be killed off, claiming originally her character was going to just leave town. I quote her saying, I fought tooth and nail for that not to happen because I just don't think that's Marissa Cooper. I just don't think sailing off into the sunset's the proper goodbye. At number 4, Roseanne Barr. I mean, she was the lead of the show Roseanne, which ran for 9 years, from 1988 to 1997, before being revived in 2018. The revival proved to be a success and the show was renewed for another season, but cancelled shortly after Barr would tweet out what many felt was a racist tweet. The tweet in question referred to Valerie Jarrett, a former aide of the Obama administration, as the offspring of the, I quote, Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes. Obviously racially motivated, Roseanne tried to backtrack her comments, claiming that she was heavily medicated on the sleeping pill Ambien when she tweeted out the gross remarks. The next morning, Barr publicly apologized to Jarrett and would go on to ask those defending her to stop, holding herself accountable for her actions. She also claimed not to be racist and referred to the tweet as a bad joke. But as you can imagine, her show was cancelled shortly after. At number 3, Thomas Gibson, yet another Criminal Minds actor who left fans shocked when they found out he would be written off the show. On the show itself, Gibson, who played the squad's leader at the FBI in Special Agent Hotchner, would go into witness protection after his son would be involved in a handful of stalking incidents. This led to Hotch eventually leaving the FBI to focus on being a better father, but as we all know, for a character who led the team for 11 straight seasons to just up and leave, well, it just didn't make much sense. Turns out Gibson was suspended for 2 weeks from the show after getting into a physical altercation with Virgil Williams, one of the show's writers and producers. Although headlines claimed Gibson was fired for anger management issues, his side of the story is very different. Speaking with People magazine, Gibson explained how one night during shooting, he approached Williams telling him he had issues with some of the lines that didn't make sense. Williams insisted it was necessary for the show, and when Gibson returned to set, frustrated, he started telling his castmates what happened. And in Gibson's own words, he came into that room and started coming towards me. As he brushed past me, my foot came up and tapped him on the leg. If I hadn't moved, he would have run into me. We had some choice words for which I apologized the next day, and that was it. It was over. We shot the scene, I went home, and I never got to go back. At number 2, Charlie Sheen. In a highly publicized fallout with the show's producers, as well as the network and production company, Sheen found himself making headlines for months. After addiction issues would force him into rehab, the show would be put on hiatus. Aside from this, Sheen had previously claimed he was thinking of walking after refusing an offer of $1 million an episode from the network. Eventually, he was offered $1.78 million per episode, but within 12 months, Sheen would be in rehab 3 times, yet again putting the show's production on hiatus. After Sheen would publicly go after Chuck Lauer, the show's creator and executive producer, Warner Brothers and CBS would release a statement claiming Sheen had been released from the show. To make matters worse, there was a lawsuit demanding Sheen be paid for the remaining unproduced show, and although he was replaced by Ashton Kutcher, some felt that this casting change actually helped revive the show. At number 1, Kevin Spacey. After allegations were made against Spacey claiming he forced himself upon a minor, which he has denied, more allegations would come out against the House of Cards lead. To no surprise, the allegations led to House of Cards and Netflix firing Spacey from his role as Frank Underwood, with the show claiming he died in between seasons 5 and 6. The 6th season of the show would be its last and least popular, with many claiming it just wasn't the same without the show's original protagonist, Spacey. Still, I don't see what else the production could have done, and it seems following the allegations, the demise of the show was a long time coming.
Being famous is not just about having a yacht load of money and flying on private jets. With fame not only comes power and influence, but also extreme scrutiny and jealousy. Your freedom of speech quickly turns into a prison of thoughts when anything you say can and will be used against you in tomorrow's headlines. Money that once opened doors to lavish luxury can quickly turn into a rabbit hole of drugs, frivolous spending, and fueling bad habits. For this list of celebrities, it's not just their money that doesn't exist anymore, but apparently their sanity and fame. And today we are counting down the top 10 celebrities who lost their fame. Coming in at number 10, we have Mr. Charlie Sheen. For a while there, Charlie Sheen was hashtag winning, hashtag winning, hashtag winning. And then, suddenly, he was hashtag not winning. His little shtick, which made him cool in the first place, was this image of debauchery and philandering. Winning became losing as his insane lifestyle caught up with him. While attending rehab for the third time in a year, 2.5 Men creator Chuck Lauer halted production of Sheen's hit show in 2011 and banned Sheen from the set and cancelled the final episodes of the season. CBS and Warner Brothers terminated his contract shortly after that. And Sheen's character was replaced by Ashton Kutcher. In the wake of the firing, Sheen had a very public meltdown, making bizarre statements in interviews, suggesting that he was a warlock with tiger blood and Adonis DNA, and of course, winning. He posted videos to YouTube showing him smoking cigarettes through his nose and ranting about his former employees. Charlie Sheen has been married 3 times, and almost all of the relationships ended badly. And most recently, he came out as HIV positive. We'll ignore the claims that he's made about being resistant to AIDS, or how he's learned to cure it by drinking goat milk. Best of luck to you, Charlie Sheen. At number 9, we have Chris Brown. Singer and dancer Chris Brown was on his way up the pop charts with his 2005 hit Run It, and then he was dating beautiful Fenty queen Rihanna. But things went south in a very ugly way. After a February 2009 incident that left Rihanna bruised and battered on the side of the road, Brown was charged with felony assault and uttering threats, to which he eventually pleaded guilty. As a result, his music was actually pulled from many radio stations, and he withdrew from public appearances like the 2009 Grammys. His career has never really recovered from this. Up next at number 8, we have Lindsay Lohan. Ever since the young age of 19, Lindsay Lohan has been doing the exact opposite of what she should be doing, even if she had good intentions. Lilo has been accused of showing up ridiculously late on set, and if you watch the Own Lindsay docuseries, you know that 3 p.m. is an early time for Lohan to wake up and get started on the day. This was back in 2014. For many years, from 2007 onward, she lived in and out of various Los Angeles hotels, was involved in multiple car accidents, some DUIs including for alcohol and cocaine. She went to rehab at least 5 times, spent 84 minutes in jail, yes, minutes, and subsequently sacrificed the best years of her acting career in order to get her personal life in order. Lohan dropped multiple film and TV projects, many of them promising, claiming fatigue and dehydration. Perhaps the thing that Lindsay Lohan is most famous for now is her famous dance in Mykonos, which has been memed countless times. Coming in hot at lucky number 7 on this list, we have Macaulay Culkin. Everyone knows Macaulay from the classic Christmas movie Home Alone. He was making $8 million a film, and becoming the biggest child actor Hollywood had ever seen. But he's actually known even more famously for the battle that he had with his parents in his teenage years. Allegedly, his father was mishandling his son's money, and his parents fought over control in a public divorce. Unfortunately, after that died down, Macaulay was arrested for possession of marijuana in 2004. He's pretty much vanished from the acting scene, but that's not the only thing that's vanished. He's super skinny, and his body is basically like a walking skeleton nowadays. I miss Macaulay Culkin. At number 6 on our list, we're bringing you a 2-for-1 deal, Heidi Montag and Spencer Pratt. Heidi first rose to fame after being cast on the MTV series The Hills, where fans saw her relationship with Lauren Conrad flourish and die. And then fans watched as her relationship with Spencer Pratt became more and more ridiculous and outrageous. What was Heidi's true demise? Her numerous plastic surgeries. She said that she felt the plastic surgeries turned her all-American look into a Barbie doll. And now apparently her and Spencer are penniless and living at his parents' house. We are halfway there. At number 5 on this list, we have Amanda Bynes. From Nickelodeon's All That to her funny role alongside Hollywood heartthrob Channing Tatum in She's the Man, Amanda Bynes was America's sweetheart for her entire career. But in 2012, she announced on Twitter that she was retiring from acting. And then things kind of spun out of control. DUIs, hit-and-run accidents, criminal possession of marijuana, and undergoing mental health evaluations. These are just some of the lists of things that she had to go through over the last few years. She's now under a conservatorship of her parents, yet that hasn't seemed to stop her from taking to social media to showcase her bizarre world. It's honestly really sad what happened to Amanda Bynes. She was so talented, and she is still talented, but it's sad. I wanted to be like her when I grew up, and just makes you not want to get into this business, to be honest. At number 4 on this list, another child star. Starting on Disney's Even Stevens, Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf transitioned into the adult acting world quite seamlessly. But things got weird. His bizarre behavior has had fans scratching their heads for a few years now. There's even a timeline one can visit at The Telegraph that maps out some of his most absurd and weird moments, pointing to a disturbed life behind the scenes of his movies and his Twitter activity. Although his career hasn't exactly taken a nosedive, his reputation has, well, it's not pristine, let's just say that. Alright, we have made it to the top 3. At 3 on this list we have Jim Carrey. In the 1990s, Jim Carrey was Hollywood's king of comedy, appearing in family and kid favorites like Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, and Liar Liar. Of course, his fame didn't stop with those movies. He was pretty much on top of the world. He also starred in The Grinch, The Truman Show, Bruce Almighty, and Yes Man. 20 years later, Jim Carrey's life has taken a very different turn. He's been living a very reclusive life, and he's always involved in controversy one way or another. With 35 years under his belt as a film and television actor, Jim spoke candidly about fame, describing it as fleeting. Things took another turn when his ex-girlfriend and Irish beautician, Katharina White, committed suicide in 2016 at her home in Los Angeles, which he described at the time in a statement as a hit with a lightning bolt. An ugly fallout followed that tragedy. White's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Carrey, claiming that he emotionally abused White, gave her STDs, including 2 strains of the incurable herpes virus, and intimidated her via high-priced Hollywood lawyers after their breakup. In 2018, Carrey told the Herald Sun, "Depression is caused by your body and your psyche becoming exhausted with who you are trying to portray in the world." After these comments, people were starting to wonder if Jim Carrey was emotionally stable. To this day, he's continued to separate himself from Hollywood, continuing to participate in other things. He paints a lot, and he's actually not bad at it. And he's also taken on a project like a children's television show. But the Jim Carrey that we once knew and loved, and I guess our main funny man, is just a distant memory. At number 2 on this list, we have Aaron Carter. Kid brother of Backstreet Boy Nick Carter, Aaron Carter was a pop star by the time he was only 7. When he began to grow up though, he started to make a lot of mistakes. He blew a fortune worth $200 million, all before his 18th birthday. So what did he spend that $200 million on? A 12-home Carter family compound. Aaron then suffered a broken jaw in a fight which spun into an opioid addiction. It started with painkillers to help him, but he continued to take the painkillers even after his jaw had healed. His brother Nick then got a restraining order against him in 2019, alleging Aaron had made threatening remarks. Aaron's overall health has remained pretty fragile since. He spent a night in the hospital earlier this month for exhaustion, a couple months after revealing on the doctors that he'd been diagnosed with multiple personality disorder, schizophrenia, acute anxiety, and manic depression. With the tragic loss of his sister and father in recent years, Aaron Carter just can't get out of the hole that he's in. He's had a string of DUIs, bad car accidents, stints in rehabs, and multiple occasions where he's threatened to commit suicide. And the number 1 spot on this list goes to Britney Spears. A 12-year conservatorship was just extended again until August 22nd, 2020. For the former pop icon. Now, I'm not gonna give you a whole bunch of background on Britney. We know what happened there, and it's just so sad. Instead, I'm gonna talk about the arrangement that legally prevents her from controlling her life and her $59 million estate. The conservatorship, which is a legal guardianship typically enacted for those incapable of making their own decisions, was approved by the court back in 2008, after Britney Spears had several public meltdowns. The arrangement put her estate, financial assets, and some of the personal assets under control of her father and lawyer. Now, if you haven't seen a bizarre Britney Instagram post lately, you should definitely check her out on Instagram. She posts some weird stuff, but she's also just living her best life and doing her thing. The conservatorship has been extended again until at least August 22nd. A hearing on the conservatorship actually never took place due to the coronavirus pandemic. This news comes right around the same time that Britney Spears posted to Instagram that she accidentally burnt down her gym. This was after she left candles lit.
Top 10 celebrity careers that Me Too destroyed. In at number 10, James Franco. Although his Me Too moment has not hindered his acting career, many believe that the accusations brought against James is what cost him a nomination for his role in The Disaster Artist. After winning a Golden Globe for the movie, 5 women stepped up and accused him of harassment and abuse. One woman said that James pressured her into a situation similar to what Weinstein is facing jail time for. Along with losing the respect of most of his peers, he was also removed from the cover of Vanity Fair and was no noticeably absent from the Oscars. A majority of the claims come from former students of his while he was running an acting and filmmaking workshop, and as I mentioned, his movie career seems safe for now, but he certainly won't be mentoring actors anytime soon. In at number 9, TJ Miller. TJ is another actor that's movie career seems to be untouched by the Me Too accusations brought against him. However, when it first happened, he was noticeably absent from the global promo of Deadpool 2. Apparently, a woman came forward and accused Miller of assaulting her in more ways than one, even claiming that the actor punched her in the face. Once this happened, others stepped forward with similar stories. His comedy special that was set to be taped was cancelled, and as we mentioned earlier, he had been dropped from the Deadpool 2 press tour. In at number 8, Jeremy Piven. Recently, Piven has pivoted to doing stand-up comedy, but all of this comes after he was accused by several women for harassment and unwanted advances. Jeremy Piven defended himself by saying, "Careers are being destroyed based on mere allegations." Sure enough, his career was slightly hindered after these allegations resulted in the actor's show, Wisdom of the Crowd, getting cancelled. Although none of these claims have so far affected his future endeavors in both comedy and acting. He sold out multiple nights at the Yuck Yucks here in Toronto and has 4 new movies that are in post-production. In at number 7, Jeffrey Tambor. Working as an actor for more than 4 decades, Jeffrey Tambor's career came to a screeching halt with the start of the Me Too movement. At the time, his career was at an all-time high with his main role in the show Transparent, as well as the comeback for Arrested Development. Slowly but surely, women started coming forward and they all shared an eerily similar story of Tambor making rude sexual comments to them. One of his accusers even said that Jeffrey had been watching her sleep, which is just super weird. His ex-assistant on the show Transparent eventually broke her silence and opened up about what really happened on the set of Transparent, and as a result of her claims, he was fired from the show. In at number 6, R. Kelly. Now, it's important to note with this case that R. Kelly has been accused of nefarious things long before the Me Too era ever began. However, once the ball was rolling, R. Kelly was tossed back into the mix of those being accused of abusing their power of celebrity. So far, the biggest hit to the singer's career was the release of the documentary series called Surviving R. Kelly. According to prosecutors, the current case against him was brought forth on behalf of 4 victims who were between the ages of 13 and 17 when R. Kelly had abused them. As a result of this more recent backlash against Kelly, his concert venues canceled his shows while simultaneously prominent activists and entertainers called for people to boycott him. As I mentioned though, he has been through decades of misconduct allegations before, which have even been made fun of in pop culture films like Scary Movie.
R. Kelly, don't pee on me! My lady lumps! Where are we?
Yet it was not until the Me Too movement though that people started taking the victims seriously. In at number 5, Charlie Rose. Mr. Rose was an American TV journalist and former talk show host from 1991 to 2017. He was also the executive producer and host of the talk show Charlie Rose on PBS and Bloomberg LP. He also co-anchored on CBS This Morning with Gayle King and Norah O'Donnell. Charlie was accused of flagrant and egregious harassment at CBS, for which his accusers said had been going on for decades. There were 13 female CBS employees as well as 14 other women who all said that Rose would routinely expose himself to them, inappropriately touch them, as well as make rude comments directed at them in and out of work. Sounds like a nightmare. Rose was fired from CBS and PBS, and he has apologized but also said, "I do not believe that all of these allegations are accurate." Okay, boomer. In at number 4, Matt Lauer. Matt Lauer is a former television news anchor and co-host of NBC's Today Show, as well as a contributor for Dateline NBC. This Me Too accusation shocked many fans of the often smiley and wholesome Matt Lauer. In November of 2017 though, he was exposed as one of the most extreme cases and explicit forms of workplace harassment. Out of all of the reporters that had been caught up in the Me Too movement, Lauer was the worst. More than 10 women who worked for the network had complained about harassment by Matt, and as the story unfolded, his case became even more frightening to hear. Apparently, he had installed a button underneath his desk that would allow him to covertly close the office door while seated so that he could lock his victims in the office with him, which sounds like something a supervillain would think of. I mean, really, this is really gross stuff. In his apology statement, Lauer said, "There are no words to express my sorrow and regret for the pain I have caused others by words and actions. To the people I hurt, I am truly sorry." In at number 3, Woody Allen. Woody is another one of those cases like R. Kelly where for literally decades he has faced allegations of misconduct. Once the Me Too movement began, the controversy surrounding the famed director, writer, and actor began to bubble back up. In 1992, his daughter Dylan Farrow accused him of abuse, and strangely enough, his own son Ronan Farrow was a reporter that really kind of kicked off the Time's Up and Me Too movement. His own father was thrown back into the spotlight for this reason. Now Woody is suing Amazon Studios for $68 million after breaching breaching their contract. Allen's claim is that the studio abandoned the deal to make and distribute his movies after more allegations were brought against him, for which he says they knew all about before signing the contract. In at number 2, Kevin Spacey. Kevin for a long time was by far the most demanded actor of his generation. His library of roles was huge and his fame made the actor seem kind of untouchable. Then a man named Anthony Rapp came forward and accused Spacey of forcing himself on him when he was only 14 years old. Following that, 15 other men came forward accusing Spacey of a similar experience. His career was pretty much cancelled at that point, but Kevin found a way to make things even worse for himself. In his apology, he took a moment to come out as gay, for which the LGBTQ community denied any association. As a result of these accusations, Spacey was fired from House of Cards and was removed from the film All the Money in the World. Safe to say the only acting work he'll be doing is on his YouTube page. Last but not least, on our number 1 spot, Bill Cosby. You had to see this one coming as our number 1 spot. I mean, so far Bill Cosby is the only person who is facing real jail time after the Me Too movement destroyed his career. Rightfully so. I mean, what this man did was absolutely deplorable. Cosby was found guilty of 3 counts of drugging and assaulting Andrea Constand in 2004, and more than 60 women have accused Cosby for years of inappropriate behavior. At 80 years old, Bill Cosby is most likely going to die in prison, which is absolutely wild considering for the longest time he was referred to as America's dad. Not only was his career destroyed, but his freedom was as well.